As I reach inside and dare to be great, I dance, I yell, and I celebrate.
Hi, and welcome back to another brand new, amazing, incredible episode of Breakthroughs Before Breakfast. I'm Annalise Brownlee, and this week we're going to be discussing one of the most powerful forces which we can utilize to achieve our goals: focus. A quote I love is, "Which comes first, the compass or the clock?" Before one can truly manage time, the clock, it's important to know where you're going, what your priorities and goals are, and in which direction you're headed, the compass. Where you're headed is vastly more important than how fast you're going. Rather than always focusing on what's urgent, learn to focus on what's really important. Focus is such a critical element of being truly successful. So this week, we're going to be discussing two distinctions which highlight the importance of being focused. First, distractions are the enemies of success. Today we live in a world full of possibilities, opportunities, and distractions. Getting sidetracked or taking advantage of too many opportunities all at once is the fastest way to derail achievement. Now, I'm not saying that you have to just focus on one thing all the time, but it's important that as you're taking action towards your goals, that you're staying truly focused on that goal. It's also critically important to evaluate whether or not you're using your time effectively, because time is one of the most valuable resources we have, and it's important to evaluate whether or not how you're using it is going to help you achieve your main goals in the long run. To get a better and more visual understanding of this principle, we have the cost of focus flip chart. Now, this is a graph that we use to show how focus, or lack thereof, can directly affect our businesses. So over here we have time, and here we have money. Let's say that in your business, you start out here, and I come up to you and say, "I've got a great business proposition for you. It's only going to take up a little bit more of your time, but it's going to generate you thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in the long run." So you decide to take advantage of it. And sure enough, you start pouring just a little bit of time into it each week, and your income starts going up. And as you start pouring in just a little bit more time, you start seeing even better results. But that 8 to 10 hours a week that you're spending on this business is coming directly out of your main business, and that starts to show in your results. So after a while, you're just sort of juggling both, and it gets to a point where you start losing all the momentum that you were building, and you start getting tired and exhausted, and after a while, you just sort of drop off, and you're still left juggling both of those businesses, but you're in a worse position than you were when you started out, versus the opposite, where, let's say you start out at the same point, but here you're managing and juggling multiple businesses, but you decide to let some of them go to focus on the one that's the most important for you. Here's what most people face, is that initial sense of financial loss, because they're not receiving all those small little income streams like they were before. But what tends to happen is as they start focusing that time and energy into their main business that was getting focused in all these different directions, sooner or later, as they start to focus and stay determined and dedicated to the one business, they start to build that momentum. And after a while, things completely shift and they take off. And they start generating more revenue than they ever were before. But the pain for most people is this section right here, because they don't want to face those upfront costs that they have to in order to start juggling one business. But by cutting those out, they face that initial sense of financial loss, but it's only when they get that time and energy back and they focus it on the core of their business that they finally hit the point where they get past that financial loss and they really take off and start to be truly successful. But most people don't want to face those upfront losses, so they get caught up in things that aren't going to work long term, that they're time consuming and frustrating, and they get stuck in this level here, where they're not really making that much money, and all their time and energy is getting consumed in these things that are going to put them in a worse position in the long run. But that's the power of focus. Most people won't pay the upfront costs of being focused, but once you truly focus on the one goal that's the most important for you, your results can be 10 times better than they were before. This week's world leader was an American inventor and philanthropist. He founded the Eastman Kodak Company, helping to bring photography to the mainstream. This week's world leader is George Eastman.
The first Kodak camera was placed on the market in 1888. It was revolutionary at the time and opened up the possibilities for whole new technologies to be created. In 1892, he officially founded the Eastman Kodak Company, and by 1927, Eastman Kodak had a virtual monopoly of the photographic industry in the United States, and it continues to be one of the largest American companies in its field. He was one of the first business owners to offer profit sharing as employee incentive, and in his life, he gave away more than half of his money to various philanthropies. George Eastman's focus was always in the area of photography, and he was constantly on the lookout for what he could do to take his innovations to the next level. Once he found the next best thing, his whole purpose was bent on making it a reality. He once said, "What we do in our working hours determines what we have. What we do in our leisure hours determines what we are."
So this week, my challenge to you is to take a look at your business and find one thing that may be costing you more time, money, or effort than it's really worth. And see what you can do to either change that and make it more effective use of your time, money, or effort, or see what you can do to cut it out altogether. Thanks for watching, and remember to tune in again next time on Breakthroughs Before Breakfast.